Could a single rock floating between Mars and Jupiter really make every person on this planet unimaginably rich? Or would bringing it home be the fastest way to destroy more wealth than any war in human history? Because the number attached to it is 10,000 quadrillion dollars. And almost nobody has stopped to ask what actually happens if you land it. Well, let me put that figure into some kind of context for you. Global nominal GDP in 2026 sits at roughly $125 trillion, and 16 Psyche, by that headline valuation, is somewhere between 80,000 and 100,000 times bigger than the entire world economy. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you what 16 Psyche actually is, and why that number is not a valuation at all, and why landing it would destroy wealth rather than create it. And we're going to use this understanding to then give an honest verdict on Peter Schiff's core argument against Bitcoin, where I think he's genuinely right and where I think he is dead wrong. So do me a favor, hit the like button, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that you can stay up to date with all things AI, finance, crypto, and the future, so that you can prepare for what's coming next. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. Now guys, before we go anywhere near the money side of things, you need to know what this thing actually is. You see, 16 Psyche was discovered on the 17th of March, 1852 by an Italian astronomer called Annibale de Gasperi, working from an observatory in Naples. Now, it was the 16th asteroid ever found, which is where the 16 comes from, and its name after Psyche, the Greek goddess of the soul. Now, it sits in the outer part of the main asteroid belt, roughly 3 times further from the Sun than the Earth is, and it takes around 5 years to complete one lap. It's around 140 miles across, roughly the size of Switzerland, and here's the part that made scientists care. When you bounce radar off it, it comes back unusually bright, the way that metal does and rock doesn't. And that's led to a genuinely extraordinary theory that 16 Psyche might actually be a stripped naked core of a baby planet, one that started forming in the early solar system and then had its entire rocky shell blasted off by a collision. Think about why that matters. Our own planet has a metal core about 1,800 miles beneath your feet right now. The deepest hole ever made was drilled in Kola super deep borehole in Russia, and that got to around 7.5 miles down before the rock got too hot and they gave up. We are never going to see our own core. So if Psyche really is one, sitting exposed in open space, it is the only chance we ever have to look at what might be inside our planet. Now, this is the actual mission, not mining, looking. Because Psyche is a science orbiter. It launched in October of 2023, it performed a Mars gravity assist on the 15th of May 2026, and it will arrive at the asteroid belt in roughly August of 2029. Total cost, about $1.2 billion. It carries a magnetometer, a gamma ray spectrometer, and cameras, but no drill, no capture mechanism, and no return capsule. Nothing on that spacecraft is designed to bring a single gram of anything home. So, where does the 10,000 quadrillion number come from? Because I know it sounds ridiculous. Well, it traces back to the envelope estimate reportedly made in 2017 by Dr. Lindy Elkins Tanton, the mission's own principal investigator. The maths is simple enough. Take the asteroid's estimated mass, assume a 30 to 60% metal content, multiply by today's market prices for iron, nickel, and cobalt. That was never a valuation. It was a scale maker. A way of saying that this thing is enormous, that the internet turned it into a business plan. Because here is the one thing that this entire video rests on. The price of anything is not set by how much of it exists, it's set by how hard it is to produce one more unit of it. Now, the moment you land that asteroid, the iron, nickel, cobalt become easy to produce more of, which means the price you multiply by stops existing. Now, guys, does that hold up, or am I just being cynical? Well, we don't have to theorize, because a country tried it once before. The year is 1545. Spain is the most powerful empire on the planet, and the prospectors find a mountain in what's now the country of Bolivia in South America called Cerro Rico, which translates as the Rich Mountain. Now, Potosí became the largest industrial mining complex on Earth, producing an estimated 45,000 metric tons of refined silver over about 300 years, and at its peak accounting for somewhere between 60 and 80% of the world's silver output. Infinite money. So, what happened to Spain? Well, prices inside Spain rose by 500% by the year 1600 in what economists now call the price revolution. A cleric from the Salamanca school, Martin de Azpilcueta, wrote it down as early as 1556. The bullion coming in was diminishing the value of money against goods. That is the quantity theory of money, observed live, 400 years before the economics textbooks. Let's shrink that down for you. Imagine your salary triples overnight, and so does everybody else's on your street, but the corner shop still has only 10 loaves of bread. You are not richer. You are bidding against your neighbors with bigger numbers. So think about that for a moment, because the consequences were brutal. Spain stopped investing in domestic industry, because why build anything when silver arrives by the boatload? The crown went bankrupt repeatedly, despite the silver, or quite frankly because of it. And by 1599, King Philip III was reduced to issuing pure copper coinage. Silver flooded in, prices exploded, industry died, the empire based its own money. And of course, you cannot eat silver. Now guys, that took 300 years, and I know some of you are thinking, well, that was 500 years ago, and the markets are much smarter now. So, what has technology done to the hardest scarcity story ever sold to the public? And watch how much faster it happened. Diamonds. For centuries, one of the rarest stones on earth, valued by kings and queens and the wealthy people everywhere. And because of their rarity and the demand, the prices were sky high, until more recently. You see, there's been a new technology that has started to disrupt this industry. That core technology is none other than chemical vapor deposition, also known as CVD. Let me translate that. You grow a diamond in a chamber from carbon gas, and the result is chemically, physically, and optically identical to the one that was dug out the ground. Not a fake, not a simulant, the same exact stone. And the global production capacity grew by over 300% between 2020 and 2023, as reactor efficiency improved and manufacturing scaled up in China and India. And here's what that has done to the price. Wholesale lab-grown diamonds are down roughly 74% since 2020. A 1-carat stone that wholesaled around $4,200 in 2018 has now been cited as low as $4,200 to $168. The market now treats them as consumer electronics rather than a store of value, and that is exactly what happens when the production cost floor replaces the scarcity premium. And those same reactors now produce diamond wafers for AI chip cooling, so this technology isn't going away, it's getting funded. 300 years for silver, 5 years for diamonds. Now, here's where it stops being a jewelry store and becomes a monetary one, because the exact same logic gets pointed at gold. Peter Schiff, who has built his entire career on the opposite claim. Peter Schiff's central argument against Bitcoin is that gold has real-world physical utility and that Bitcoin has none. Jewelry, electronics, dentistry, thousands of years of history. Bitcoin is, in his words, a cult. But here's the numbers that quietly complicate it. You see, jewelry demands roughly 40 to 50% of annual gold demand, with industry and technology use adding maybe another 7 to 10%. So on the generous reading, about half of the gold demand has a physical use behind it. The other half of what you pay for is pure scarcity premium, the belief that nobody can make much more of it. And that premium is precisely the thing that Potosí broke with a mountain, and CVD broke with a gas chamber. Now, guys, this is where it gets uncomfortable, because look at what Schiff himself has been doing while making this argument. In July of 2026, he again publicly admitted that he regrets not buying Bitcoin early, while insisting that he still wouldn't buy it at $20,000, and he launched a blockchain-based tokenized gold product. Think about the irony of that for a second. The man arguing that blockchain has no value has put his gold on a blockchain because it makes his gold easier to move, divide, and verify. Convenient. Now, am I telling you that Peter Schiff is being dishonest? No, and nothing proves the intent. I'm telling you the mechanics, because gold requires a trusty intermediary to tell you it's real. A Bitcoin node requires nothing but the software. That's not an insult, that's just how the two things work. Now, I want to be fair here, because pretending this is one-sided would make me no better than the people selling you a moon target. Remember, I said Psyche looks metallic on a radar. Well, its density doesn't quite agree. Solid iron is far heavier than the numbers we get back from Psyche, and recent research in the Planetary Science Journal suggests it might just be a rubble pile rather than a solid core. If that's right, it destroys the valuation premise before we even get to the economics. I couldn't pin down the exact publication date, so treat that as a recent development rather than a settled science. The gold side also has a real point right now. Gold has been trading just above $4,000 an ounce, and both gold and silver have outperformed Bitcoin at least over the last year. Meanwhile, Bitcoin sits somewhere around $64,000 at the time of making this video, still roughly half of what it was around October of 2025. But notice what none of that touches: the direction of travel on supply. Timing and magnitude are genuinely uncertain here. The mechanism isn't. So let me give you the verdict I promised you at the start, where Schiff is right. Bitcoin is volatile. Its drawdowns are absolutely savage, and a 50% fall from an October high is not a rounding error for anyone's savings. And he's also right that monetary history matters. Gold has 5,000 years of it against Bitcoin's 17. However, where I think he's absolutely wrong is that he's defending gold on utility, when half of its price is pure scarcity premium. He's arguing the small half of his own case. 2. Physical scarcity has now been broken in front of us twice, by a mountain in 1545 and by a gas reactor in 2020 that's been making diamonds, and the second one took only 5 years. And 3, Bitcoin's gap is not geology, it's arithmetic. 21 million enforced independently by every full node. And personally, I hold both, because I'd rather own the thing that can't be diluted than argue against which one deserves it. Now, here's the thing though. Even if Psyche is a rubble pile, even if asteroid mining is a century away, the argument holds you do not need the asteroid to arrive. You only need it to be possible. First, CVD wafer capacity in industrial electronics, because that tells you whether synthetic material, tech, keeps compounding or stalls. Second, central bank gold buying against ETF flows, because that tells you who's treating gold as money and who's treating it as trade. And third, the one that matters the most, any serious proposal to change Bitcoin's 21 million cap, because it has never once achieved the consensus that it would need. Now look, I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. Go on and do your own research and make your own decisions, because you can't borrow someone else's conviction. So let's bring it all home. A rock discovered in 1852 that might be the only planetary core we've ever been able to see, a science probe completely unequipped for mining, a quadrillion-dollar headline that was never a valuation, and an empire bankrupted by its own silver mountain in just 3 years. A diamond premium erased by 74% in 5 years, and a supply cap enforced by nothing but mathematics. So, could that asteroid make everyone rich? No. It would do to iron, nickel, and cobalt exactly what Potosí did to silver, and CVD did to diamonds, and the people holding those assets would find out that abundance is just poverty with a better inventory. Scarcity was never about the object, it was always about the cost of making one more, and that's the opportunity here, because every technology that expands, supply, reactors, refineries, one day maybe spacecraft, makes the assets with a fixed ceiling more valuable, not less. So, let me know down below. Do you think technology eventually breaks gold scarcity the way that it's broken diamonds, or is 5,000 years of monetary history something code can't replicate? I read every comment, so do me a favor, hit the like button, leave a comment down below what you think. Are you personally holding Bitcoin? Do you still hold gold? Which one are you more bullish on for the next year ahead? And I'll catch you very soon in another video. Thanks for watching, and see you again. Bye-bye.